All right, and now it's time to celebrate the man of the hour because when this show drops on Monday, it would be 20 years since Randy Orton's first match in WWE. 20 years of the Viper, the legend killer, Randy Orton himself. So I wanted Jeremy and Scott to share some of their favorite Randy Orton moments on this show before I delve into mine as we celebrate the greatness of Randy Orton. Yes, in our space, in this timeline, in this infinite universe number 12, Randy Orton is the best. So, Scott, what are your favorite memories from the Viper, the legend killer, the dude, Randall Keith Orton?
Man, Randy Orton is my favorite wrestler of all time, bar none. Some of my favorite memories, especially, seeing Orton from the beginning, from the legend killer, from joining Evolution, to becoming the legend killer, to becoming the youngest world heavyweight champion of all time, to being Stacy Keibler's boyfriend, to, going back to being the villainous Randy Orton, to floundering Randy Orton for a bit, to slimming down and becoming the Viper Randy Orton, to becoming the crazy Randy Orton, and just seeing all these different iterations. And one of my favorite moments was, it may not seem like a big deal, but the triple threat match he had against Triple H and John Cena for the WWE Championship when he was the champion. This was at a time when Randy wasn't firmly and fully established as a main event guy, as a top guy. And, he was definitely treated levels below Cena and Triple H. During this build, this is when we got the infamous Randy Orton and John Cena versus the Raw locker room, and they took out like 15 of the 30 guys that were on the apron. We got the AA into the RKO. I kind of do wish that Cena and Orton would have formed a super team at some point. I thought they had good chemistry. But that match, when Orton won that match, and it was a really good match at WrestleMania, that to me kind of showed that, wow, okay, now they believe in Orton. He got a big win over Triple H and John Cena at WrestleMania, which was a huge deal. They ended up running it back at Night of Champions. And it was after that when you saw Orton really kind of establish himself. There were points in time when he was the most over babyface, and the RKO was pretty much equivalent to like Stone Cold Stunner. That's what people wanted to see. People were chanting RKO throughout the show when he wasn't even on there. I mean, he was hitting RKOs everywhere, everybody. The babyface turn that he had when he was the most villainous heel, making out with an unconscious Stephanie McMahon in the middle of the ring as Triple H has to look on after he DDT'd her. I mean, Orton has some fantastic moments, but then he's got some moments like Shane McMahon in the match at No Mercy, where Shane McMahon is legit shadowboxing Randy Orton on the way to the ring. And you have that. Then you have spots, and Randy Orton is a guy who, I get a lot of flack for the love I give to Orton in our Facebook group. They call him boring, but Randy has some of my favorite spots. The RKO and the moonsault, which is a recent one, but he has my favorite attitude adjustment counter of all time. And I think he only did it a couple times. Once was during a tables match, and the other was during their 60-minute Iron Man match. But it's when Cena throws him for that AA, and he catches him on the RKO on the way down. It's one of the smoothest and most beautiful counters. His RKO on RVD back in the day, the first spike that he did, when he spiked him, when he gave him the concussion, when he first started using the DDT. I mean, this is my guy. Like, the match with Chris Benoit, I know we're not allowed to talk about him, but that match was a really good match. And it's such a shame that you can't bring that up, because that's a crowning achievement and a crowning moment for him that he'll never be able to talk about. So this guy right here, man, he has been, when he retires, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have Shelton no more. I don't have Randy Orton. Like, my favorite wrestlers aren't really around like that anymore. So this is my guy, man. So I'm fully expecting him to get laid out on Monday, but I'm hoping that maybe we just get an RKO barrage instead.
That would be awesome. So, Jeremy, what are your thoughts on the career of Randy Orton and some of your favorite moments along the way?
God, it's going to be incredibly difficult to ever meet anyone and believe them when they tell me that they are the biggest Randy Orton fan that I've ever met, because you clearly are. And so, like, applause to you, man. You own it and you love it. It reminds me of the two guys in Office Space, the quality assurance operators, and they're talking to the guy about Michael Bolton and how they, for their money, you know, when he hits that RKO, there's nothing better in the world. You know, what's your favorite one? It's like, oh, I love his entire catalog. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about you and Randy Orton. It's just like, you can name off every single thing, and you ask somebody else what they like, and you're like, yeah, that's right. That too. I'm into it.
I'm all in. I'm
all in. I wrote down a number of things that I've appreciated about Randy Orton's career. The two early on that I actually was not there for, but the other three that I was there for, you kind of touched on it, Scott, but the post 2004 SummerSlam angle with the thumbs down Evolution, kicking him out of the group for winning the title. I will remember that pretty much for the rest of my life, because it was just really iconic during that back time. And then one of the other things that really defined a mental image of Randy Orton was a match. I don't remember the exact scenario, but there was a match in which he and Shawn Michaels were in the ring, and they had Shawn Michaels facing the hard camera, and all that you see is Randy Orton behind him, rising from the depths of hell, and he's coming, and all of a sudden he just gives Shawn Michaels this RKO, and as long as I live, I will never remember this RKO. I will never forget this RKO out of nowhere that he gave Shawn Michaels, in which you saw nothing until he rose up and Shawn Michaels like lowered down in the ring. It was I give Kevin Dunn a lot of crap, but that was a good shot. That was a good single camera shot. Well done. So the three matches that I've been to live for Randy Orton. One was WrestleMania 21 with The Undertaker, where I was convinced he was going to win that match, because why would The Undertaker win this match? He's on his way down, and, you know, this is the young up-and-comer that clearly has all the potential to be around for a while. Oh, how wrong I was, and how wrong everybody was for, 10 more years at least. It was interesting learning about Randy Orton after the fact and realizing that he made an ass out of himself at that WrestleMania, working with Taker, and he learned a lot, and he became a better man for it. And I have to have a lot of respect for him for learning that. Then you had WrestleMania 31 in San Jose, where he had that amazing match with Seth Rollins, where everyone will remember that final move, but the whole match itself was an over delivery based on where it was on the card. I think it was second on the card. Just a tremendous match. And then the one that I really didn't want to mention, but this is the Hall of Shame entry. It is the House of Horrors match with Bray Wyatt that I attended live in San Jose with a non-wrestling fan, and I was more embarrassed by wrestling then than I had ever been in my life. Because you guys have to remember, it was on the West Coast, it was still daylight, and they were airing a match that was happening at night, supposedly in the area.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's great.
It was 4:00 in the afternoon, but they had filmed it in St. Louis at night and aired it with no sense of irony whatsoever. I felt really bad for Randy Orton that night. I didn't really care how I felt about Bray Wyatt that night, but I am exceptionally happy that Randy Orton has bounced back without any issue from terrible, terrible booking in the past.
That was an all-timer.
Teflon.
Listen, he burned the fucking Fiend like 3 years later, and when you do that and you somehow maintain your dignity as a top-tier star, you can never go wrong with me. So
Teflon.
Yes, that nighttime shit, and it was like 4:00 in the afternoon. They tried it. They did. And I remember that, and I went in on my Facebook page about that very match. I hated it. That was a low light for Randy Orton, and the low lights would continue. Dare I say, Punjabi prison match regarding Scott's boys, Jinder Mahal.
I didn't hate that. I didn't hate it. I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it.
It was terrible.
You needed 5 stopwatches to clock the amount of time it took for people to climb the bamboo cage.
Oh my
It was better than Big Show versus The Undertaker in the Punjabi prison.
That is true. Low praise, but true.
Was that the one that they had to pull Khali because he had the elevated liver enzyme?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Good time.
The memories.
I think, and the worst part is that match was probably better than the one we would have got with Khali in it.
Probably.
Yes. Low bar. Very low bar. But it's not the great Khali's
Is it a
day.
T-bar?
Oh my God. You know,
I do want to say this. I do want to touch on one more thing about Randy Orton. He is, for my money, and I know that other people have a longer history than I do of watching Survivor Series, but he's the greatest Survivor Series competitor for me, because when Survivor Series mattered and actually meant something, when the brands actually were split, he was always that go-to guy to get 3-4 eliminations in a row, be the last man standing. He has one of my favorite losses in the Survivor Series when Kofi Kingston rolled up CM Punk, who pushed him after the 3 right into a Trouble in Paradise and the Randy Orton and pinned them both back to back. Randy Orton is just, Survivor Series is his show.
Yo, dude, I know better than to challenge you on the minutia of Randy Orton's success rate at Survivor Series. So I'm going to take your word for it and just double down and say you're probably right.
Oh, he's not undefeated now.
No, but he's got a strong
undefeated
record. And if you tell me he has a strong record, you're the guy that knows more about Randy Orton than anyone else. I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to pass that fact on to the next person I see. Because if Scott Young tells me this about Randy Orton, he doesn't lie about Randy Orton.
Oh, snap.
Noted Randy Orton historian Scott Young. And some of my favorite Randy Orton moments. When Randy was going through a shoulder injury in the early 2000s, we had some Randy News Network updates that I greatly appreciated before joining Evolution in 2003. And the music video for Evolution featuring the great soundtrack by Motorhead, Line in the Sand. And Randy licking that woman with his
the way you said Randy licking that woman.
That tongue was tonguing in ways
my God.
that was not fit for television at the time. But Randy was in a zone that day. He was committed. That tongue was doing things on that lady's neck.
Are you telling me his tongue went AWOL from his mouth?
Yes, it did.
That was good.
That was a great line, Jeremy. Great callback to Randy's past. But yeah, that tongue went AWOL in her neck. And that was an all-time classic shot they aired on Monday Night Raw. I love the multiple television wives that Randy had faking us out. We had a blonde wife, brunette wife, the wife that was screaming in the house when Triple H and the Ninja Fighters came in there to beat his ass in the home invasion angle. That was a lot of fun. Randy burning down Bray Wyatt's shack and posing when the flames are going up.
The pose got me at the end.
Yeah. An all-time classic SmackDown moment.
Let Randy be Randy.
Yes, that was peak Randy. Or look at what I've done, arson. And the
cameraman just watching. That's an accomplice right there.
Yes.
That's an accomplice.
Just filming the crime before our eyes. But in all seriousness, though, my favorite Randy Orton besides today's Randy is 2011 Randy Orton. His feud against Christian. These matches, I'm going to be bold in saying that this is our Tanahashi and Okada before Tanahashi and Okada did it back in 2012, 2013, and 2014 in New Japan. Look back at their matches in the summer of 2011. The psychology, the callbacks, the thought process they put into their matches to tell a story over and over again. That was professional wrestling. And I just love their chemistry together. And I would take 2011 Randy Orton over this Randy Orton due to what he was able to do in the ring against Christian. Was it a great feud per se? No, but the matches were great. 2020 Randy Orton flipping on Edge the night after the Royal Rumble was fantastic. The promo work was the best he's done so far in his career. And since then, he's been in a zone as a character. And the one drawback that we've talked about Randy in the past is the fact that he sometimes phones in his performances. He's so good that he kind of coasts on his greatness. And Triple H alluded to that. John Cena talked about it in his own documentary for Randy Orton about, dude, coasts a lot. He just kind of slides through everything he does in terms of work. But when you see him motivated and game, it's beautiful to see. And you see that today via his work with Riddle. He is so happy. He's engaged. He's excited to be there at work, putting in that work in the ring. One of the best hot tags in the game today. And he just brings so much enthusiasm in life. The guy did a fucking jump split 10 years ago for Mark Henry, being excited about a finisher. I love that Randy Orton. I love psychotic Randy. I love Randy from Backlash 04 against Mick Foley in a standout hardcore match. I love all those Randys, but the Randy that I love is the one that is motivated game to really believe how great he is. And sometimes it takes you being a little bit older to realize, shit, I'm really good at this. I really had a great career. And he looks back on it now and he thinks, damn, I really took some things for granted, but I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to live out my prime time of my career to the fullest. And you see that via his work with Riddle on Monday and now Friday night. So this Randy Orton is the best, but 2011 is top tier in terms of being able to weave a story together from match to match against Christian. And that to me is top tier Randy at his best.